Hi guys, this is Lamont Tony over here at Big Dogs Porting, and we are back with the part 2 of the Extrude Honed Cobra testing and porting. So we have the Extrude Honed Cobra upper cut open because, like in the first video, we showed you guys what it flowed bolted together, and it was right around 238 240 CFM bolted together. Okay, that's with their hand ported lower and their extrude honed upper. So a lot of you guys were super eager to see how the extrude honed upper looked on the inside. And we're going to show you right now. So here it is. Here it is. It's smoother than the normal cast Cobra upper. You can kind of see it's smoother. We're going to move the light so you can see the runners. Smoother, but you can kind of still see some casting, which that little bit of casting, this little bit of casting right there, that really doesn't affect flow, and smoothing this out. To be honest, you guys, we've ported, literally thousands of parts and probably 700-800 of these Cobras. Smoothing these runners don't really increase flow, as you guys saw with the bolted together flow 238 240 CFM. So we see that a lot. We see a lot of guys on the forums and groups, and they do a little home porting and they show a shiny port or a smooth port, whether it's an intake manifold or whether it's cylinder heads, and everybody gets all excited and ooh, they tell the guy that he's doing a great job and yada yada yada. And we used to comment to try to help the guys out, try to share some knowledge, based off of our experiences and our experience doing these parts. And we try to tell them, it's not so much the finish. It's not whether it's super smooth or shiny or it looks pretty or anything like that. It's not that. It's the shape, the cross section area, and the short side, the high side, and the airflow. Runner length also, if you're trying to make a long runner like this one, RPM higher or have a higher RPM peak. So, it's not a bashing video, it's just speaking the truth. This manifold, the reason why this manifold didn't perform like expected is because this really wasn't anything significant done to it. I mean, they pumped the putty, the abrasive putty through here, and it smooths the runners, and you may pick up a few CFM, but when you are trying to really maximize your horsepower gains, you don't want to just settle for a few CFM, especially when you're paying, you know, $700, $800, $900 for this process. You want to see a significant horsepower increase. And to do that, to get that, you need to have a significant CFM gain on the throttle body tunnel and the runners. And you guys saw before on the previous video, the part 1, that the throttle body tunnel pretty much was the same, and the runners, I mean, they look smooth, but pretty much they don't really flow that much more. You know, you can kind of see they're smooth, but they don't flow that much more. So here it is on the inside. You know, so what we're gonna do, this one is getting our stage 3 because the owner, Darren, he wants to maximize his horsepower, and he wants to have a higher RPM horsepower peak. So we're going to do the stage 3, our stage 3, which is shorten these runners. We're going to fully port the manifold. We're going to open up the throttle body tunnel. Actually, we already did that. We'll show you that right now. So we already opened up the throttle body tunnel to a 80 millimeter. Our stage 3s get the 80 millimeter. And we opened it all the way up, which we had to measure and get everything within spec. And usually our stage 3 Cobra throttle body tunnels, they flow right around 1,050, 1,080 CFM. Our stage 3 Explorer GT40 uppers, their throttle body tunnel flows a lot more. And the reason why is because, you know, pretty much you just have more material here in the Explorers. And that's key. That's very important when you're seeking a higher RPM, a higher horsepower. A lot of people think it's just the runners that you have to increase the flow on. No, you have to increase the flow on the throttle body tunnel as well. That's actually pretty much more important when it comes to maximizing your horsepower potential on RPM, because your throttle body tunnel, all of your runners, they get the air from the tunnel. So if your tunnel can't support at least 4 of the runners CFM, then at higher RPM, that's what the runners are going to see. You know, example, if your throttle body tunnel is 1,000 CFM, okay, you got 1,000 CFM, and divide that by 4, you got 250 CFM. Now, when you add the wavelength tuning, usually we like to say with a long runner, add another 15 CFM. With a longer runner, a shorter runner, you're going to add something like 20, 25 CFM, okay? So you may have a runner that flows, let's say this runner flows 300 CFM. But if your tunnel only flows 900 CFM on a running motor that is asking for more intake runner flow, it's only going to flow what your throttle body tunnel is going to allow them to flow. And a lot of guys will understand that. That's one of the reasons why you have manifolds like this one. You know, what they did, they extrude hone the runners, increase the CFM, you know, slightly, but they didn't really increase the CFM on the throttle body tunnel. So in essence, you know, even when we flowed it on a flow bench, our flow bench, we flowed the runners, they did 238, 240, but on a running motor, this throttle body tunnel has to be able to support at least 4 of the runners. And pretty much it doesn't. So in essence, the cylinder is not even seeing 240 CFM. Well, it may see 240 CFM when you factor in the wavelength tuning, but that's going to be within its tuned RPM band. And this is a stock length runner with a 302 base. So that's going to be with the Cobras. That's going to be about 15.5 inches long with no spacer. So 15.5 inches long on a 302, 306 motor. That's going to put the wavelength tuning somewhere around 55 to 56 RPM. So after that, it's going to fall on its face. And that's what you typically see when these manifolds are not properly ported to where you got all the numbers right. Unless you're running a gigantic camshaft, you know, or boost. You know, when you have boost involved, then this is not so much a factor because this is pressurized. Your runners become more of a factor because even if this is pressurized, it can only support so much airflow before it becomes sonic. So if you have a smaller cross-section area and you're trying to force the air through, if the motor is demanding or can use more airflow, you're going to have to do one or two things. Increase the CFM on the runners or crank the boost up. And that's going to generate more heat. So it's always good to have free flowing parts. It just makes everything a lot easier, especially when you're trying to get the most for, you know, your money or the best bang for your buck. So there you guys have it. So the next time you see this manifold, it's going to be completely finished. And we're going to do a after flow test. See you guys at the track.